So I think we're live, Mandie. And if anybody's noticed, both Mandie and I just got out of the shower. I think Mandie took the fastest shower in history.
I did. I did my best anyway. I'm turning my phone brightness
Look
up
what I'm
here.
wearing. It says adopt like Walt.
I'm wearing my first mom shirt.
Oh, yay. Mama Bear.
Mama bear.
That's right. Hey, did
Yeah,
you know that Walt Disney adopted?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know the whole story, but he did. He adopted I think one of his daughters or two of his daughters are adopted.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, so that's thus the adopt like Walt shirt.
Oh, I get it. Oh, that's so cool.
Next time you come down here, we'll wear matching ones.
Yes. And I'll have fun.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to talk. So, I actually, I hope people don't mind on our Adoptagenix networking group that we're just sort of diving into a little bit of some of these adoption stories. Yesterday I had Regina on, and it was really great to just sort of hear a little bit about her adoption. And she is almost, not quite, but she's almost an empty nester. And then she's going off to adopt. And I think her son is going to be 7 or 10 as well. And then, I thought about you because it's so interesting to me how this adoption theme, here we are with this network marketing company, yet, we've got adoption. And I mean, that was what started our group. And of course, with you, when I first met you, I didn't realize you were going to adopt. So I kind of want to know the story, if you don't mind sharing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Of like how we came to adoption.
Yes.
Yeah. So when my husband and I met, like within the first month or so that we were dating, he told me one night he told me two things. He's like, I'm not getting married, I'm never having kids. And I was like, okay, we haven't been together that long, so let's not go there. Like we can have that conversation
That's
later.
the first thing that he said.
Yeah.
Hi.
And then he eventually started saying things like, if we ever got married, and I'd be like, thought you weren't getting married. So eventually we started talking about this kid thing, and he explained he had some reasons, very personal things, why he wasn't totally sure that he wanted to have kids. And I started to really think about it. And I had never thought, do I want to have kids, or do I just picture myself having kids because that was what I'm told to do. And so the more I thought about it, the more I realized I didn't have that really important need to like have my own baby.
Mm.
So over conversations while we were dating, we decided that and scripture study together, because he was very well versed in the Bible before we met. So he really helped me with my spirituality and understanding the scriptures. And he has always been drawn to James 1:27 that says that true Christianity is taking care of the orphans and the widows. And so we kind of agreed when we got married that if we ever had the desire for a family, we would turn to adoption first, and that we'd kind of just keep that conversation open. So fast forward to a couple years ago, he starts telling people in conversation without talking to me, oh, we're going to adopt kids someday. And I'm like, okay, file that away. Like a month later, it would happen. Yeah, we're going to adopt a kid or two. Like we're going to adopt in a couple of years. And finally I said, do we have to have a conversation? Are you ready to do this? And he said, yeah, I want to adopt before I'm 40. And I'm like, okay, great. I'm ready to go. So earlier this year, we sat down at a dinner, and it was like January 5th. And I said, okay, so you're going to be 39 in a month. Like, do we want to start looking? And he was like, oh, yeah, I'm ready to start looking. We'll take it slow. And not even a week later, that was a Wednesday evening, that Monday night, he said, I was making dinner. He goes, I'm going to go on the computer and start doing, I'm just going to research a little bit. I had been researching agencies and stuff like crazy, but I had not been looking at particular children. And so I was like, yeah, sure, hop on Google. That'll work great. Go find a kid. And sure enough, like 10 minutes later, this is the kid I want. I found him. So it's been a whirlwind, because we had decided that we were ready to adopt, and we found him before we'd had any of our paperwork or anything started. So we sent a letter of intent and were approved to be his family, basically. And they, like, I don't know, put him on hold for us. And we've been getting videos and pictures and updates on him all year, and we've been sending him to English lessons, and we're like so close. We're finally, right now, we're waiting for them to translate 100-ish pages about his history from Spanish into English. And then as soon as that's done and we can go over it and have a brief conversation with our agent, then we can officially sign our acceptance of our referral. And then we'll be able to Skype with him, and we're leaving in November to go pick him up. So
Wow.
it's been
Wait. Now, okay, so
crazy.
he's in Colombia, correct?
Yeah.
So here's the thing that I find interesting, because I found my son Alec, on a very remote, like Russian language website. I had to nitpick around to try to find out where exactly he was, because they didn't have the orphanage or anything. And typically, I think there's not that many like open photo listings anymore. And oftentimes people go for adoption in many countries, and it's a blind referral. It's like when I went to adopt Matea, like they give you, a picture, maybe, but they're like, this is your child, right? So I actually did get a referral once with Matea for, when I was adopting Matea in Guatemala in 2005, and I just wasn't feeling it, from what the agency sent me. But it was very against protocol to say, sorry, give me a different referral. But I did that. I waited like almost 3 weeks or so, but I was tossing and turning. And I feel like we sort of know it's not just by a picture, but there's something like, even when they gave me the next referral and they described her situation and I was like, that's it. And then they sent me the picture, and I got a picture of her, she was laying in the same position in a bassinet with like the same color onesie on that I had when I was a baby, when I was a newborn. And so I know that photo listings aren't typical, but there is something that does just draw, like I felt when I saw Alec, it was like, that's my son.
Yeah. That's what happened here.
I wanted to avoid it at first. I was like, it must be somebody else, and somebody else. And maybe I can get somebody else to adopt him. Am I frozen?
A little bit, but you're coming back.
Oh, great. Okay. Anyhow, so my question is, can you talk about what the process in Colombia is? Because the last time I adopted was in 2011, and I kind of want to know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been really impressed so far. We're working with an agency called Nightlight Christian Adoptions out of California. And so that was the funny thing, is that the website that we found him on was adoptionbridge.org. So they're not like one agency, they're stories from all around. And I think the reason that he was posted is that he was 9 at the time that he was made adoptable. He turned 11 this past June. So he had been waiting for his family for quite a while. He's been an orphan most of his life. So I think that there are certain kids that if they've been waiting for a while, that's where they get posted. That's because, I didn't I was trying not to fall in love with a specific child, right? I was trying to keep it really like practical research. So Nightlight has been awesome. Nightlight actually has a team in Colombia. After my husband, it was like 5 o'clock at night here in Wisconsin. And he said, can you email them for information? And I said, sure. And he goes, like now? And I'm like, okay. So I was going, okay, well, it's a Monday night, like nobody's in the office. And sure enough, we got a response 15 minutes later because they're in California. And I was on the phone with her that night talking. So Colombia asked us to send a letter of intent at first, basically saying, this is who we are. This is why we're interested in this boy and our son. This is why we think we're a good fit for him. And this is where we're at in the process, basically saying we have no paperwork done and we're going to jump on that. And so it took a little bit, it took like a week. We had my family come over for dinner and I cooked Colombian food, and we were just going to tell them that we were adopting. And we got the phone call that our letter was approved in the middle of that dinner. So that was kind of cool.
That is so cool.
It was awesome. Like Natalie, our adoption agent, was so excited that our whole family was there. So then we went through Colombia. The Nightlight Christian Adoptions doesn't do home studies in Wisconsin, so we had to work with a different company for that. And Colombia has been like really easy to work with, honestly. If we can send questions, and their adoption committee, they have a whole committee over there. I think it's part of the government. I'm not totally sure. But their adoption committee would send us information back when we asked questions about him, like they would communicate with his foster mom and like ask him questions that we wanted to know. And so now we're at the point where they have reviewed our dossier. So we had to put up together a whole bunch of documents, and Colombia is pretty intense. Like the psychological evaluation that we had to do was the very intense style. It was the psychologist we worked with said, I've done ones for China and India and a few other places, but this is the most extensive. Like I've never had to do. We have to do an MMPI-2 test and actually send the specific results from the test, in which our psychologist said he doesn't even normally release them to patients, but since it was an adoption, what are you going to do? The medical evaluation is very intense. They're very particular about things in your past. So I've spoken with another family that's adopting from Colombia who had a few more hurdles to go through, like they had a divorce in the past, they had a DUI in the past, things like that. We didn't have much going on in that respect, so that was much easier, but they're particular about those things. And then now that we sent that in, it was supposed to take like 3 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks for our dossier to be approved, but it went very, very quickly. So I think that they just have, I think he's been in the system for a while, and I don't know, maybe they were just ready for him to go.
So
They're ready for him.
Older kids and older boys especially, it's like the likelihood of adoption, international adoption, is so rare. In some of the countries, even though they allow domestic adoption, it's not as prevalent, or in some cultures, it's not as acceptable. It's like, well, why are you adopting, right? So there are kids in so many different places. And like in Guatemala, for example, it's closed now, and then Colombia is open. The process typically is, the home study, getting set up with the agency, getting approved. I find your story to be so interesting because I know that when I adopted, and when we had we adopted 5 kids after giving birth, a lot of people were like, well, why are you adopting when you can have your own, when you can it's not like you have an infertility issue, right? That was a kind of a big question. The questions that people ask are so fascinating, and, you have to kind of sometimes just lighten up in order to be able to answer them. But I do recall people saying things like, well, why wouldn't you give birth first, right? And so I feel like your story is so interesting because some of us, that feeling to adopt is very real. And I will tell you, from having given birth and adopting, the feeling and the, it was just a strong desire to adopt was, for me, just as strong as when I was like, oh, I hope, let's have a baby,
Yeah.
Same. It felt really the same. And so I find it so interesting. But from what else have you learned about just the situation in Colombia regarding orphans? Do you know anything about that? Like what the, I don't know, the dynamic is there regarding, the economy and all of that?
I've learned a little bit. Like I said, I've been really impressed with their situation there. He's been in a foster home consistently. So he became an orphan at 9 months. He was in one foster home for 2 years and one foster home for the rest of the time after that, and he's still there. They seem to be really attentive to the kids there. There are over 60,000 orphans in Colombia.
Wow.
And there are a lot of older kids available and sibling groups because of, and I can't recall where I was learning this, but because of the drug activity that still is in Colombia, it is actually a much safer place than we might have considered it a while ago. And somebody was telling me yesterday that I should watch the show Narcos to have a reference for Colombia. And I was like, no.
Don't go there with that in your mind.
I know, right? I mean, the New York Times just made it one of the top 3 places to travel for 2018 or something. My mom was telling me. So I mean, it's an improved culture. The kind of territorial wars that were going on have died down quite a bit, but there is still a lot of drug activity, and so that leads to a lot of young parents, and it leads to there are some. I was told that some very young parents will get a new boyfriend and they're not interested in their kids anymore.
That is a very real problem globally. So that happens a lot in Africa too. it's out of survival in a sense. I know that I'm not excusing it in a sense, but what happens is like, you know, somebody will have babies with one man, right? And then the one guy leaves because they're not always, it's not always a marriage culture. A lot of countries, they're not really getting married. Like they don't, you know, and so then the guy leaves and then, you know, they're struggling. So it's like they find a new guy and he's like, no. And then maybe she gets pregnant with his baby. And then it's like, nope, we don't want your other babies. So have grandma take care of them or bring them over to the orphanage.
Yeah.
That happened to my kids. My oldest daughter, Grace, was a different dad. She was sent to live with the grandma. And there were two other sons. They were sent to live with the grandma when their mom found a new guy. And then my younger two are from that marriage. So it's very common. The other thing that I wanted to just mention, and then I want to ask you about, you know, sort of like the nutrition and how about this group and all of that. But you know, I mean, it's hard to kind of be jumping through all of those hoops, but it's really great that they're doing psychological testing. There's one area that we're probably going to really focus on, and I'll probably do that mainly on my main page, but from 2007, 2008, 2011, when we adopted, it was very active. There were a lot more people adopting back then because there were more options. I don't know. There was just a lot more adoptions being approved. And I think we all kind of, my dog is about to bark. Okay, kind of had this like romantic ideal, and what we've noticed in the past several years is a lot of. I'm sorry that she's barking like that.
FedEx can be here for a minute.
It's my delivery. it is. So just give me a minute. Yeah, okay, he'll be gone in a second. Sorry, everybody. That is Ladybug. Just, do you think anybody will come to my door and try to break in? Okay, so he's gone now, but she's just waiting for the truck to leave. Okay, so what I was going to say before I was so rudely interrupted by my dog was that it's important to really vet and vet. It's really important to go through that because there have been cases where parents and people have adopted. Number one, they've either harmed the child, or most of the time when this happens, there's a struggle within the family and there are undiagnosed things with the kids that the parents have not been equipped, or psychologically they don't have the tenacity to be able to endure kind of the process of getting the kid acclimated. They don't have a support group like this. And so there's been, what we've seen in the past several years is those people who have adopted in 2011 or 2005 or whatever, some of them are starting as their kids are getting older. There have been a lot of people that have given up. And I know that you and Eric have done so much research, and you are really great with the psychology. Like you're really equipped and you're prepared. But it's really important because there is this romantic idea of adoption, and it's tough, but it's also so fulfilling. It's so great. So I think it's important, and it's really, I mean, I commend Colombia for taking those steps because it shows that they care for their kids. And I also love the foster care setup. Matea was in a foster care setup, and that with the right parents, most of the time they're good parents. They know what it's already like to be in a family setting. There's going to be an adjustment, but you know, he'll know. So
yeah. When we went through a lot of the training that we went through was connected to the Connected Child book by Karen Purvis. And we went to a 2-day conference close to us in Illinois, and it was an awesome conference. But a lot of the situations that they were describing, Eric and I just had this, we were so grateful that he's been in foster care and not in an institutional situation, because you can understand how being in a situation where he might be a little bit neglected could really affect him and hurt his opportunity to connect with his family. And so we're we're ready for anything, but we're cautiously optimistic about the situation that he's coming from, and
Yeah.
really feeling grateful for what he's had so far.
Yeah, and you have every right to celebrate and all of that. But just having that information is so crucial, and it is different. Four of my children had the frame of reference of knowing what a family was like. And then Alec, I mean, he's done amazing, but he had no concept of what a family was. Like, no, I mean, didn't know, because he was in an orphanage for 5.5 years. So there is a big difference in that, but we are so excited for you. So I want to just, because I don't want to keep the call long. Can you see me still?
Yeah.
Okay. This happened yesterday. I have to do something. I have to kind of take myself off and put myself back. Hang on a second.
Okay.
I had to, anyhow, that happened yesterday. You can still see me, right?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So I'm curious, just a little story about like how you find Isagenix, and then what, like when you, I know that, you were introduced by Dina, but then when did you find out about this adoption connection, and when did you go, wow, what's that about? Because this was before you had,
Before you for sure decided, yes.
Yeah. So I'm curious.
So I think I found out about Adoptagenix right away because, Dina told me when we were first chatting in the airport, which is where we met. I don't know if everybody's heard that story, but she told me who helped her find Isagenix, you, and she put me in the Adoptagenix group right away along with her group. So it was immediate, and I was just like, oh wow, like I have to say God has been with us through this whole process. Like I feel like being added to the Adoptagenix group in April of 2017, and then in January of 2018, officially deciding that we're going to adopt, like it
Cool.
was very, very, the timing was perfect. So honestly, I've used, like, speaking to you has helped a ton, knowing that there are so many people on our team that have adopted. We have people on our team that are homeschoolers, which I'm going to be doing for at least one semester.
Yeah.
Just having all of these great references and resources and people that I can turn to and kind of stories that I can know has been so helpful. And I leaned on that when in our in our home study interviews and things like that, explaining that I do have a good community of people around me. And I have some other friends that have adopted or are interested in adoption locally too, who are several of them interested in Isagenix, but they're not on our team yet. So just having that nice close-knit community and being able to talk to people about what the experience is like is huge. And not to mention having the nutrition and feeling like, oh my God, if I was still feeling as sluggish and exhausted and like blah as I was at 35, I don't think that I could be as enthusiastic and like, yeah, I got this, I can do this. Because we're going from no kids, we've been married for 10 years with pugs and the ability to do whatever we want, to like preteen. Just boom, 11, like boom, boom, mom.
So the nutrition has helped you. Do you have any plans on how you're going to use it during your travels and when you're getting John adjusted?
Yes. So I'm going to open my business in Colombia before I leave. Just because, why not? And then that way I can have my stuff shipped straight to where we're going to live. So we're going to rent an Airbnb apartment downtown Bogota. We've found some really nice ones that are going to be a great opportunity just to have like a home kind of, rather than like
there.
We have to be there for a month, and it could be up to 8 weeks. Like if the government is going to. It is, like, Eric and I are actually, we were at first for our 10-year anniversary going to do this big like trip to Italy and Greece and things like that. And then we decided, no, we're going to like invest in our family instead. But we're getting a big, huge trip and adventure along with it. And we get to spend our whole first month with our son, like learning about his culture and kind of getting to know him in his culture and in his community, like within his country, which is going to be really cool.
He'll be living with you, right?
Yes, they as soon as we get there, he's ours. And then we have 9 days of an introduction period where we have meetings with his psychologist and his doctors and his and the adoption committee, and kind of just monitoring how the initiation as a family is going. And then once that period is over, he's ours, and we're just waiting on the government, because our adoption will be finalized in Colombia. We don't have to come back and finalize anything in the United States.
So that means he'll be a citizen when he comes in.
Yes, as soon as he's a citizen as soon as he lands, because he is our child when we leave.
Yeah.
Like, he's officially adopted.
Got to thank McLean Leighton for some of that work.
Oh, yes?
Well,
Awesome.
not that specific detail, but yeah. So, so basically, you guys are blessed also to be self-employed, so that you can take that kind of time, which is amazing that you're able to do that. And
Colombia's on like Central Time, I think, even, so we'll be able to. I mean, my work routine will be able to be the same there, and all of my food will be the same there. And when my niece and nephew stay here, I always offer them a shake as a breakfast option. But so that'll be like, John, I want to get that nutrition into him immediately, and have him on as much of our product as we can get him on, just to support him, because he had a brain injury as a baby that he has done an amazing job recovering from, but I want to continue to support his brain and his body as much as possible.
Yeah, and just to clarify, when Mandie says that she's opening up her business there, for those of you who are kind of looking in but don't know, our company, Adoptagenix, is open in Colombia. It's an international business. So she's adopting there. So what's so cool is that you're giving back and, obviously adding to your family. And at the same time, since she can work from home, she's working in the country now, one of the countries that we are open in. So you can actually meet people, set them up with their online virtual health food store and get fit and get to know. You can even go to the corporate office there. You probably will. So that's exciting. Well, Mandie, anything else you want to say, like in regards to this? I mean, we're supporting you, and you've added so much to our Adoptagenix team, and this is what we live for. Seriously, this is it. To be able, when we started this, it was, obviously to get parents fit and ready. And at the time, it was sort of like we were all like not healthy and trying to get there. But now what we're seeing between like you and Regina and some other people who are going out to adopt, what's really cool is that prior to the adoption and during the adoption, you have all of these nutritional resources to keep you in shape through the process, because, adjusting can add so much stress. So what's interesting is that it's sort of like a different wave. Like in the beginning, in the first few years or whatever, it was like people that were coming into our team that were just like exhausted moms, having adopted. Now we're seeing people within the team that are equipped, that maybe hadn't adopted before, heading into adoption fully fit and and healthy and ready. And so it's really cool to see. And I will mention that, because you did a little bit of research, some countries require even a certain BMI, a certain health profile, when you get your physical. So having this nutrition in your body even before you adopt is going to give you an extra edge, so you don't have to deal with, okay, well, why is this happening with your whatever? It could be cholesterol or your weight or whatever. So it's a bonus for sure.
It really is. That was definitely something that was on our side, that I had recently. I talked a little bit in our application, our dossier and stuff, about how I had recently become much healthier, and I'm on a healthier lifestyle track, and want to bring that to my family. So I'm really happy that I'm in the best shape of my life going into being a mom, which is
so great.
It is so cool. And I feel stronger. I feel more confident, and I feel like I can definitely do this. Whereas I don't know if I would have felt that way 2 years ago if we had made this decision. So that's really awesome. And also, being an entrepreneur myself, I've been running my own photography company for about 10 years. I'm in the process of shutting that down, and having Isagenix to be able to focus on is as little as I can focus on it right now, being in the middle of wedding season. It is September. Everybody's getting married. But having something, a plan, a home-based business that I can grow as a mom, like I'm starting to realize what I'm going to be able to do from home while he's here, while still being a stay-at-home mom, and the passion that I'm going to be able to bring to other parents as I meet parents in my community. And it's really, I think it's the perfect storm of what things going on in my life right now, that having Isagenix, having this business, becoming a mom, and being able to have my family healthy.
Yeah, and benefit to your child that, we're all like strong women who work and have our own businesses, but I will say from adopting a lot of kids, being present and being able to have that child learn how to be in your family and having the freedom to be able to work from home is huge. And that was the other motivation. When I said yes to Isagenix years ago, I was just like, wow, could this happen? I had to face either the 40-hour work week, and then my husband was working the same, and we had 7 children. It's like, how was I going to make that work? What was that going to do for our family? It would be we'd be in this routine. How are these children going to adjust? So whether, if John needs certain therapies or if you're just getting him adjusted, whatever, you're going to have that freedom to do that. And at the same time, the business that you've chosen with this nutrition is in alignment with, number one, the company wants to give back globally. They're all about this legacy of giving back globally and making an impact. And you are a great example of that, by the way. And then number 2, the nutrition itself is so great for kids like John who are adopted, and he's going to have to adjust to sort of a new palate and everything anyhow. But there are deficiencies that a lot of kids you'll see when they come in, they have to deal with their gut health, their brain health, and it's all connected. And then at the same time, the family can be connected. And that's why we say it's, healthy and prosperous forever families, because you have that luxury to be able to do that now. Everybody, who is adopting or not adopting can do that if we, kind of make the commitment. And so, we're supporting you, and we're believing like your business is going to really take off, because I really think you're going to launch an international business in Colombia. I hope you're brushing up on your Spanish. So anyhow, Mandie, we love you, and thank you for sharing this. And we'll be following you and probably having you on again.
Yeah, in November I'll be working from Colombia for a month, so.
I think the time zone is really doable too.
Yeah, totally it is.
Straight down and maybe over a little bit or whatever, but yeah. So, all right. Be well. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.